Hello, BookTube. Who's up for whiling away a little time by rummaging through my mail? We'll start with the periodicals. I have two. I subscribe to a ton of periodicals. I used to subscribe to a lot more, but in the immediate wake of the 2016 U.S. presidential election, I dropped all of the political magazines, which I was only getting for the back of the book. I was only getting it for the book reviews that fill out the back half of almost all of those kinds of magazines. But I did occasionally glance at the front part of the magazine so as not to simply waste the money, and I couldn't risk glancing at the front of those magazines anymore, so I just discontinued them. But I still get a ton of them, and I've noticed since September uh, just how many I get, and I've noticed them for the very real reason that they're starting to pile up, which you've never heard me complain about before because they never have piled up in all of my 28 years. I would bring my periodicals each week to a little hole in the wall Chinese food restaurant here in Boston and read them there with all electronics turned off and with no one in the world knowing where I was without even English being spoken. Uh, but I have a puppy and I haven't been able to go. The woman who owns the place called me, or she had her grandson call me and say, dude, are you still alive? We haven't seen you for the first time ever. Uh, I haven't been able to go, and that has caused the periodicals to pile up. Uh, we've got two this time around: Esquire and Men's Journal. And the Esquire has Bryan Cranston on the cover with a bunny. Do not pet Bryan Cranston's bunny ever. Right, and it's got the usual mix of Esquire reportage. They report really well. They do a really good job of it, and feature pieces and fashion and whatnot. And I think the highlight for this one for me is going to be coincidentally enough, it's about politics, but I'm gonna have to resign myself that that's going to be unavoidable. And besides, this is by Martin Amis, so you have to read it. It's Pax Americana. Uh, in the second paragraph, he follows the Trump campaign and writes his dispatches. And maybe I have to remember this guy's he's not my favorite novelist by a long shot, but I don't think I've ever read any nonfiction by him that I haven't loved. It's too bad you can't make a living from it. But he writes. In midsummer, I journeyed from Manhattan to Youngstown, Ohio, to see the process of a Trump rally in action at an event held by the U.S. president. Would I feel at home among my fellow attendees? On the way, I silently rehearsed the Barry Manilow law, as promulgated by the poet critic Clive James. Everyone you know thinks Barry Manilow is absolutely terrible, but everyone you don't know thinks he's great. At Covelli Center, the Covelli Center had attained its full capacity, 7,500, and there I stood, surrounded by everyone I didn't know. I really like the Barry Manilow law. Then we've got Men's Journal with roasting tobacco addict Chris Hemsworth on the cover. He's Thor in the new movie Thor Ragnarok. I've had a screener of it just sitting here for weeks and weeks. I finally got around to watching it. What a show! Oh, what a show! I admit, it has very funny moments. It once again, it's like the sixth Marvel movie in a row where I have ended up preferring the relatively quiet interpersonal moments between actual flesh and blood actors to the epic CGI. There's one sequence in this movie, talk about epic CGI, that is just incredible. Just incredible. It's a ride of the Valkyrior that Richard Wagner would have loved. Not to make, though, that came out wrong. It's really good. You can love it too. Uh, but he stars as Thor in the movie, and I this I always prefer it when Men's Journal tries something different for their cover, but this has a lot like Esquire, has the same kind of balance. Great photography, lots and lots of there's always a celebrity profile, but there's lots and lots of fashion stuff and feature articles. There's a feature piece in here on uh, deep cave diving in the jungles. Look at that. Can you imagine going down into a space like that? I can't imagine it. There's also a fantastic piece on the front lines of the opioid epidemic in one town in New Hampshire. Just amazingly written. And the letters page, which starts off the issue, starts off with a letter about an article they did in a couple of issues ago, a great piece about the sinking of the cargo vessel El Faro in 2015 in Hurricane Joaquin. Ship went down with all hands, and the writer wrote a great piece about its final voyage, which, unlike in days past, we know a huge amount about. Because all of it's recorded, and most of it survives, and most of it was transcribed elsewhere. So you can track it almost to the end. And the first letter in the letters column is in his story on the sinking of the El Faro. Jeff Wise writes, quote, "No one factor brought on the disaster," close quote. But 6,000 years of seafaring prove him wrong, and so does his own writing. The one factor that doomed the El Faro was its captain, who ordered his ship into the face of a hurricane over repeated warnings from his crew. It's a pretty good letter. Pretty sexy letter. It's by me. I have made a habit forever of, I don't just read periodicals. I've made a habit forever of firing off letters to the editor about pieces, positive or negative. I did it forever on a manual typewriter with a stack of envelopes stamped right next to it. You don't want any... When it comes to a personal letter, you can let impediments get in the way because, they're not worth the effort anyway. But when it comes to a letter to the editor, speed is of the essence. You want to get that out right away. So I used to have a stack of stamped envelopes just ready for that purpose. And I would just type up a letter and fire it off. And the reason that I always made a point of doing that, and that I still do, now it's easier than it ever was, thanks to email. You can email the magazine, you can email the writer. The reason that I do it is because I've been an editor for a long time. And I know that editors, even at high-profile places, glossy, high-profile places, that you would think would be swamped with content, with reaction, they're often not. Keep in mind how many draws of attention there are out there. There are millions, far more than there are any one person to give attention. As as President Lincoln used to say about job hunters in the halls of the White House, there's too many pigs for the teats. And so a letter to an editor means a lot in most cases. I found a lot of times some people, some editors at some publications, including one particular newspaper in New York, just summarily ignore letters from the unwashed white polloi. But everybody else, 99% of people, they want to hear. If you read an article that you really liked, they want to hear it. If you read an article that you drastically disagree with, they want to hear it. I remember years ago there was an article in Boston Magazine about a spit and polish yuppie couple who get a dog. They wait in line forever at a breeder rather than adopt, God forbid. And they get a dog, and then they call him Seeker, and they give him toys, and they make much of him. And then in the course of the article, it turns out, as is so often the case, that the dog was just a trial period. It was just a floater animal until they could spawn, until they could have a child. And then once they had a child, the dog was completely ignored or slandered. And the article was meant to celebrate the progression of life. And I tore into it in a letter to the editor. And they ran it. And I remember reading it and thinking, wow. So you don't just have to praise. You have to have readable, balanced criticism. It's a habit by now. I can't help myself, so I do it all the time. I will probably do it for something in that issue. But anyway, so those are the magazines. Now we'll move on to the books. There's a fairly good stack of books here. Could be more coming. Nice, bright, sunny day. Let's see what kind of trouble we can get into here. Okay, the first one is a made-up story. This is Happiness by Aminata Forna. On the cover, we see a fox, and in the background is someone walking a dog. The dog seems oblivious to the fox. That would not happen. Huh. Okay, and we've got in the background, even further still, we have residential houses but a tall tower. So this is London. A fox makes its way across Waterloo Bridge. Distracted, two pedestrians collide. Jean, an American student studying the habits of urban foxes, and Attila, a Ghanaian psychiatrist. Attila has arrived in London with two tasks: to deliver a keynote speech on trauma, as he has done many times before, and to contact his niece Amma, who hasn't called home for a while. Amma has been swept up in an immigration crackdown, and now her young son Tano is missing. Meeting again by chance, Attila and Jean begin to mobilize neighborhood rubbish men, security guards, hotel doormen, traffic wardens, mainly West African immigrants, to search for the boy. A deepening friendship between the two of them also unfolds. Okay. So we've got the author's doing a lot of press for this, and it comes out next year. Yes. All right, it comes out in March. I am still reflexively, when I see any book I get in the mail, I'm still reflexively saying, oh, well, I don't think about it for a while. But 2018 is marching steadily closer, so I'll eventually reach a point where I can't do that anymore. Let's see what this next one is. Oh goodness, it's another novel. Okay, this must also be 2008. Yes, this is January of 2008. This is The Infinite Future by Tim Werkus. I think we were two covers that I like, 2 for 2 so far here. So let's see here. The Infinite Future is a mind-bending novel that melds 2 page-turning tales in one. In the first, we meet 3 broken people, all obsessed with a forgotten Brazilian science fiction author named Salgado Mackenzie. There's Danny, a writer who's been scammed by a shady literary award committee. Sergio, journalist turned sub-librarian in Sao Paulo. And Harriet, an excommunicated Mormon historian in Salt Lake City, who years ago corresponded with the reclusive writer that they're all obsessed with. This motley trio sets off to discover his identity and whether his fabled masterpiece, never published, actually exists. Did his inquiries into the true nature of the universe yield something so enormous that his mind was blown for good? And in the second half of the book, the author gives us the lost masterpiece itself. Awesome! The actual text of The Infinite Future, Salgado Mackenzie's wonderful, weird magnum opus. The 2 stories merge in surprising and profound ways. Oh, that sounds like so much fun. Okay, so this comes out in January, The Infinite Future. It is the kind of book that I imagine we all here on BookTube have a sweet tooth for. A novel about a novel. A novel about writing. Those kinds of things, I love them myself. So let's see. We're doing fine here. Let's move on. Oh, very good. Oh, fantastic. Okay, so this comes out right away, like now, and I don't. Okay, it doesn't have a pub sheet, but it's Poet in Spain. This is Federico Garcia Lorca. This is a new translation by Sarah Arvio of his poetry. And it is bilingual, and it's the first such thing in quite some time. For the first time in a quarter century, readers can enjoy a new volume of translations of the beloved poetry of Garcia Lorca, presented in a bilingual edition. The fluid and mesmeric lines of these translations by the award-winning poet Sarah Arvio bring us closer than ever to the talismanic perfection of the great Garcia Lorca. Poet in Spain evokes the wild, innate local surrealism, those are in quotes, of the Spanish voice in moonlit poems of love and death set among poplars, rivers, low hills, and high sierras. I don't quite know about all that, but I took the liberty of dipping into this before I got a copy, and the translations I really like. I mean, I've talked on this channel before about the complicated problem of translating anything. I find that my problems with the whole issue of translating literature tend to fade almost into the background when it's a bilingual edition. I guess you can just turn your eyes to the other side of the page and enjoy Garcia Lorca yourself. But it allows you to more thoroughly separate the translation. Oddly enough, considering that they're on facing pages, you'd think that would join them closer. But in fact, for me, it separates them more. Because, okay, you've got Garcia Lorca, you don't have to worry about whether or not this poet is whether or not the translator is taking excessive liberties, because you can just look at the text and see whether or not they are, which allows you to sort of ignore the text and just see the job they're doing. And this Sarah Arvio, she captures in her English perfectly the kind of mordant playfulness that runs throughout Garcia Lorca's poetry, that gives it, I think, its charm. Is the way that he's not really taking it seriously. He's not really taking himself seriously either, and it gives access to such enormous beauty. Oh, I'm very happy to have this. That's fantastic. I will certainly read and review. Let's move on here. Getting a real made-up stories vibe from this whole thing. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing, right? That's not a bad thing. You watch all sorts of booktube videos of people who love the made-up stories, right? You know, you precious Eric Carl Anderson. You precious Simon Savage. Oh, we all love Simon Savage. When's the last time you heard either one of them talk about the Battle of Orvieto? Never. I don't know where that came from. a little bit of channel envy, perhaps. I love my channel to the exclusion of all others. Let's see, what do we got here? Okay, this is I did not request this. This is from Columbia University Press. It's Birth of a New Earth by Adrian Parr. The subtitle is The Radical Politics of Environmentalism. Look at that cover. Good Lord. Pretty much brings home the point, doesn't it? Environmental catastrophe demands nothing less than the mobilization of the collective imagination. What a claim. In Birth of a New Earth, Adrian Parr identifies the emancipatory potential of environmental politics both inside and outside existing structures and within opposing, say it with me now, paradigms. Ultimately, environmental politics is the refusal to surrender life to the violence of global capitalism, corporate governance, and militarism. This defiance can serve as a source for the birth of a new earth. Okay. All right. Yeah, that escalated quickly. So this comes out in October in an $85 hardcover, and then this $30 paperback. Wow. Okay. Don't know why this was sent to me. I'll definitely give it a read. Sounds a bit on the eggheady side, but I'm up for that once in a while. Let's see what this next one is here. Oh my. Oh goodness gracious. Oh my. Okay. This is Philip Pullman, The Book of Dust. The first book in La Belle Sauvage, with a beautiful production here with end pages and decal edges and all. And I got a wonderful review in, I think it was the TLS just recently. A wonderful, smart review. I think it was the TLS. And this finished copy is a double. Yeah, I already have a copy of it. Okay, so I guess since it's a great big release in the fantasy world, and since it's a double, I guess this would be a point where most channels would immediately start to organize some sort of giveaway. Believe it or not, though, considering the fact that I have mailed books to hundreds of you, literally at this point it's hundreds of you, I still don't know how to do a giveaway on this channel. I honestly don't. Right? I mean, you've been watching, then you know that. You see all these books that I get, and I always say, if you want to, actually I didn't say it this time around. Let me say it now. If you see a book here that you really want, not, oh, I might be interested in it, not, or as one person wrote over a year ago, if I saw it on the sidewalk, I'd pick it up. Not that, but where you really want it. I've had it happen in the last few months. People have left comments on videos saying, "Oh, that particular book, maybe one that I thought would elicit no response at all." I get a comment saying, "Oh my God, I study that subject. I love that subject. I want that book so bad." There, if you see a book like that here or in any video, let me know, because in most cases, once I've reviewed it, I'm not going to keep it. So I'd be happy to send it to you. And two, if you want to review something, I am a literary editor in addition to being a book reviewer. So if you want to review something and you want to try to put your toe in that water, also let me know. But in all that time, mailing books to all those people, huge stacks of priority mail envelopes going out in the mail every week, I have never yet figured out how to do an actual giveaway on this channel because they seem so artificial on other channels. I guess because they're rare, right? Other channels, I have mailed out hundreds and hundreds of books to people who watch this channel, whereas most channels don't do that. So the idea of getting a book ready and mailing it out and picking a recipient is kind of artificial to them because it's rare for them. So they set up I'm going to computer randomize the number of people who are chosen. I'll pick one at random. I'll have a computer program do it. I need, your parents' permission if you're younger than 18. I need, all this sort of, it's only available to domestic shipping and all that. And I've never done that because I just, we're all going to have to figure it out together. I mean, obviously, this isn't going to be a channel that ever does actual formal giveaways. That just doesn't seem. I mean, we're here in this room talking to each other. That doesn't seem. It's not like we're all of a sudden going to back up a step and have a contest. You don't do that if you're meeting friends for onion rings and beer, right? After a long day of what's it called again? Work. You don't meet all your friends. You're chatting along for 20 minutes, and all of a sudden you say, and coming up next, I'm going to give you something. Enter now. You don't. If it's a friend, we'll have to figure out a way. The long and the short being, I have a double of this book, and I know that a lot of you are bigger fans of Philip Pullman than I am. So I'd be happy to mail it to somebody. I just don't know how we're going to manage that. I don't want to say first come, first serve. That's not fair judging from the number of packages that I send in the mail every week, I have to assume that better than 80% of the people who watch this channel live in rural New Zealand. So they're not going to see this video for another day. So I don't know. Well, that was a long digression. We'll just continue here. But it does raise the question of I mean, maybe on one level, this should be the last channel in the world to worry about giveaways. Maybe that's... I know there's one person out there. There's one person out there I know who's pulling their hair and saying, why are you even worried about the mechanics of giveaways? You give away books to people all the time. You spend $60, $70 a week sending books to people you're never going to meet. You don't have to worry about giveaways. They already know you're generous. But it feels kind of strange. I mean, I'm obviously, this is a double. And we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Let's just move on. Oh, God. It's another made-up story. It's another made-up story, yes, but it's not just any made-up story. This is No Mon by Nick Harkaway, and the reason that I chortled is because he wrote Tigerman, which is a novel that you absolutely have to read. Oh my God, what a novel! Oh. And this thing is like 3 times as big as Tigerman. So oh no, there's no. Oh, okay, here we go. In the world of No Mon, citizens are ceaselessly observed, and democracy has reached a pinnacle of transparency. When suspected dissident Diana Hunter dies in government custody during a routine interrogation, Mayaliki Neath, a trusted state inspector, is assigned to the case. Immersing herself in neural recordings of the interrogation, she finds a panorama of characters and events that Hunter gave life to in order to forestall the investigation. A lovelorn financier in Athens who has a mystical experience with a shark, a brilliant alchemist in ancient Carthage confronting the unexpected outcome of her invention, an expat Ethiopian painter in London designing a controversial new video game. In the static between these mysterious visions, Neath begins to catch glimpses of the real Diana Hunter, and alarmingly, of herself, the staggering consequences of which will reverberate throughout the world. Oh my. All right, so whereas Tigerman was kind of small in its ambitions, this sounds like it's huge in its ambitions. Oh boy. Okay, well it's a perfect example of what gets me going with the made-up stories. If an author, like I mentioned on this channel before, if an author really pleases me with their previous outing, they have all the credit in the world at the Bank of Steve with their next outing. They're going to have to do a lot. to get rid of that credit, to wear it away. They're going to have to, in other words, write not one, not two, but several Beck books. That's a rant for another time. Oh my, I will report back. But I got to tell you, this comes out in January. And I got to tell you, if this disappoints, you'll be hearing me cry 2 counties over. Well, anyway, let's move on. We're almost done, and I don't think I mentioned this ends with a box. So we're almost there. Let's see what the next one is here. Oh my. Okay. Wow. All right. Wow, talk about good luck. All right. So this comes out in mid-November. This is a book that you have seen on BookTube many times. This is Pachinko. By Min-Jin Lee, and look at how pretty it is. It's got a flap with artwork and blurbs, not just a flap with blurbs, and it's got new artwork on the cover. I don't know if you remember, the cover of the hardcover was also lovely. So whereas most American books are ugly in the hardcover and then even uglier in the paperback, this one was pretty in the hardcover and it's just as pretty in a different way in the paperback. How wonderful. That's fantastic. This is going to have blurbs from it has blurbs from everybody. It doesn't have a blurb from me anywhere. I'm hurriedly checking just in case that isn't true, and I don't remember. But I don't think it is. I don't think that I actually reviewed this anywhere because I didn't really like it. It didn't send me over the moon. And then I saw the great video that David at the Poptimist did about it, and it's my firm policy that if I kind of sort of don't like a book, if I hate a book, that's different. If I absolutely hate it, that's different. If I hate a book, I'm on firm ground, and you're going to have to do a lot. But if it just doesn't kind of work on me, and somebody that I fully acknowledge is a more sensitive reader of the made-up story of contemporary fiction than I am, actually likes it a lot, then it's kind of there's a little toggle in the mind where I think, okay, well, the next time you encounter it, give it another try, because if that person really liked it, and you were, mezza, you're probably wrong. And the Poptimist loved it, and did a really good video. I will try to remember to leave it down below because it's worth watching. But if this isn't a reminder, I don't know what is. Look at how lovely that is. Okay, great. And then we're done with this. We're at the box, and that's the last one. This is a hideously long video of book porn. And the box, I can't help but notice on the cover, is from Norton. W.W. Norton, which I've mentioned on this channel before, is one of those publishers, one of the few remaining handful of publishers where the very name is a guarantee of quality. Whereas that used to be true of quite a few. Thanks to international mergers and whatnot, it's not anymore. But with Norton, it's often the case. Let's just hope that the book that comes out of the box isn't a piece of crap, or I'm going to have egg on my face. Oh, okay. Well, this is an anthology. Okay, this is a finished copy of an anthology. It comes out in December. It's called Alive in Shape and Color. It's Edward Hopper paintings. Is that right? It's edited by Lawrence Block. That's what the book looks like. And it's 17 paintings by great artists and the stories they inspired. Oh, okay. So it's not Edward Hopper. It's all paintings. It's not. No, the Edward Hopper was a different book. Okay, I'm remembering because it looks very similar. Oh, but no, this is many different paintings. Okay, great. And then many different. There's a Van Gogh, and what else have we got in here? Georgia O'Keeffe. Okay, great. So who are the writers? Lee Child, Joyce Carol Oates, Justin Scott, Sarah Weinman, David Morrell, Jeffrey Deaver, Joe Lansdale. Okay, so there's a lot of Lawrence Block, Michael Connolly. There are a lot of thriller writers in here. I wonder if that's the kind of story that we're talking about. Well, anyway, so we've got Steve Pyramid here, of quite extensive, and then we'll be done because this is like a 9-hour video. So this is Alive in Shape and Color, an anthology of stories inspired by paintings. Then The Book of Dust by Philip Pullman. Then Poet in Spain, a new bilingual edition of Garcia Lorca. Then The Infinite Future by Tim Workus. Happiness by Aminata Forna. Gnomon by Nick Harkaway. These are all made up stories. Then Birth of a New Earth, the academic environmentalism, and Pachinko in a lovely trade paperback. So there you go. That is an extremely long-winded mail haul. I'll stop now, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.